So Ascension to Heaven recently got its first official preview, after many individual creators working on the level already previewed their individual parts. And somehow the level's getting somewhat of a mixed reception. There are still a lot of people who think that it's really good decoration and that the level's going on perfectly, but there have also been claims that the level is generic and that all of the parts are very interchangeable. So today I'm going to give my thoughts on the deco so far and why I think that the level is doing pretty well and isn't generic. Feel free to comment down below your opinion on Ascension to Heaven, and while you're down there, please feel free to like and subscribe. Anyways, on with the video. So starting off with the first part of the level, just known as the Ascension. By the way, I'm just going to be going off of the chapters in FMN4's official showcase, in terms of the sections of the level, so this is like before any of the trials. The Ascension is pretty well done. The first part is relatively calm, and then it moves into a more chaotic section with more greenery and just more structures obscuring the background. I think the deco is already pretty well done. I like how this part is just got more of just the sky and the clouds in the background, whereas Trial 1, which is the next part, the Maze of Gods, has a more greenery-focused part of the level, and it very much feels like you're accelerating into some sort of ascension into, well, heaven. That's the name of the level. The Maze of Gods is where it starts to get really interesting in my opinion, because it introduces a lot more greenery into the level and these huge mountains in the background, but it still has the huge grand pillars and structures and some gold color like the parts before it. So far from the parts that I have seen of this specific trial, it stays pretty consistent within itself while also being able to differentiate itself from the Ascension and the next part, which is the Ruins. The Ruins starts with this amazing transition. It's literally like an end screen in the middle of the level. It's awesome. Which is a sort of foreshadow / nod to the third trial, which if I remember correctly is actually the gates, or Heaven's Gateway to be exact. This part is much more overgrown and seems a little bit less intact, which makes sense because the section name is the Ruins, and the decoration parts throughout this section of the level do a pretty good job of matching the intensity of the song. So that's where the official preview ends, but there are some parts that have been made public that are past this point in the level. There isn't too much public for Heaven's Gateway, given the one fully decorated official part that I could find is to be replaced. I'll show it on screen right now anyways, but generally the Ruins section is basically a build-up for this section, and then the part after this section, which is the Prelude, which is prelude to the final trial, does have a couple parts that have been made public, which I will show on screen as well. There are also a few parts farther into the level that I will show on screen that have been made public by certain creators, but they haven't been shown in one of the big official previews, so I'm not sure if they'll be cut or replaced, but they all seem to be of pretty good quality as well. So now to move on to the main criticism of the level that I've heard and I kind of disagree with. So the main criticism I've seen of the deco so far for the past couple months, especially before the first preview was made, the first official preview I should say, is that all of the parts look really interchangeable and just very similar to the point where that it kind of looks like it could have all been made by the same creator. First off, I disagree with the last part considering that a lot of the parts are made in different styles. But I can't lie, the parts do look very similar in some cases. However, I think that this actually works to the level's benefit, because it keeps the theming very consistent, and it still looks just different enough for each trial or different section of the level to have its own sort of niche sub-theme within the bigger level. For example, the Ruins parts look a little bit, well, ruined, and the Ascension, as well as some parts in Trial 3, also do not have any greenery, or very little greenery. With a level literally 5 minutes long, it's going to be somewhat difficult to keep the parts cohesive without it all blending together and looking the same. And I think the level is headed in the right direction, especially with the different trials and sections of the level having different sub-themes. There are also some parts that stick out to me personally, for example the second part in the Ascension, the first part in the Maze of Gods, and the first part of the Ruins. These all stick out to me because, just like in every other collab, there are some parts that I will find more interesting than other parts. And even if some of the parts look interchangeable beyond the section that they're in, I don't really see it as that much of a big deal. Even if the parts look interchangeable, they're all still really good quality parts in my opinion. And not only that, they're good quality and it's a theme that we don't really see very often. Usually a lot of upcoming extreme demons these days are usually hell theme, some sort of generic glow, or even space theme, whereas heaven theme has not really been used in any significant way. Even if some of the parts are interchangeable, that doesn't make the level generic at all, considering that the theme and the song are very unusual for what's usually done in this community. I'd say going forward with some of the different sections, the hosts could try to make it more clear the differences between each parts and each trial. Which, don't get me wrong, the level could benefit from, I just don't find it that necessary, because I think they're already doing at least a decent job of differentiating the parts, but it's still at least an idea if it continues to be somewhat of an issue. I also think that because a lot of the parts were previewed in a very similar way, that could have had somewhat of an effect on how people perceive the level, given that all of them pretty much had the same basic formula of the slowed down, blurry version of the part with the object count and the number of groups used and whatever. And then it shows the part, and then it shows the part again in slow motion, which will emphasize the similarities of different parts tenfold. There's a video by my friend Nothing Is Scary, which goes into much more detail about this specific controversy. Link is in the description. Go check that out if you're more interested in the points for and against this argument. This video is more brief and also just talks about the recent preview. So yeah, overall, I think this level is heading in a pretty good direction, and I'm really excited to see it eventually verified. I think it's probably the most unique upcoming top 1, maybe other than Return 0, but I haven't seen much of Return 0 yet, and I don't think very many people have, so we'll have to see which one's better, but it's at the very least in the top 2. Also, thank you guys all so much for 10,000 subscribers, it really means a lot to me. The 10,000 subscribers special will be in several parts because I want to do several things for 10,000 subscribers. The first thing I did was ask out my crush, and so the results of which will be shown in a community post pretty soon. I'm not exactly sure how it'll pan out, but for my 10,000 subscriber special, I'm basically going to do the sequel to Touching Grass. I'm going to ask out my crush. So those are like 2 things that would be pioneering stuff in the GD community already. Then I'll do a Q&A and probably announce the Challenger Creator Contest pretty soon as well. That might be not in the same video, but we'll see how that goes. And also, a 2-hour stream highlights video is coming very soon. That's also part of it. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, then please like the video and subscribe. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Also, I'm not going to do a fucking foot review.